Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well today. And thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for day two of Cherry Bekaert 2025 Not-for-Profit Virtual Conference. My name is John Fadis, and I'm a partner and one of the leaders of our assurance practice with Cherry Bekaert's nonprofit practice. I'm based out of Chicago. And I'm looking forward to being your MC today for the four sessions that we are going to be having today and presenting. The first session today will focus on the use of cost-effective approaches to analytics that nonprofits can use to improve operations, optimize resource allocation, and enhance customer engagement. I'm pleased to introduce our speakers. We have two of them today that will be presenting on this topic. The first is George DelPrete. He's a managing director in our Cherry Bekaert Digital Advisory Service team, and Mike McDonald, a director in the same team. I will let them take over the baton and we'll come back after the session is over. Have a good presentation, gentlemen.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. My name is George DelPrete, and as John said, I'm a managing director here at Cherry Bekaert, and I lead the firm's analytics and automation practice. And we're going to talk about a lot of the things that some of our customers are struggling with to have good access to analytic information and use that at their fingertips to make great decisions. I've had about 30 years working in the space primarily with public sector and not-for-profit organizations to help them with a variety of technology modernization efforts. And I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Feel free to post any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll also leave a little bit of time at the end for any questions that you may have. Mike?
Thanks, George and John. I'm Mike McDonald. I'm in Cherry Bekaert's data and analytics team, and I focus on helping clients modernize their data platforms using cloud-based technologies and helping them along their journey from basic business intelligence to advanced analytics, machine learning, and AI. And I look forward to speaking with you today on this session.
Thanks, Mike. So our learning objectives for today, as John alluded to, are to talk about how organized analytics and data contribute to your operational efficiency and strategic impact through more informed decision making. So we'll talk a lot about data proliferation and some of the challenges that organizations struggle with to access and make sense of that data to make operational decisions. We're also going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and many of the benefits that organizations are seeing, some of the challenges that organizations need to navigate through to utilize AI, and talk about some case examples of how other organizations can use that, including not-for-profit organizations. And then Mark's going to talk a little bit about some of the approaches that we typically take to build analytical reports and dashboards, and then provide a demonstration of some very cool modern technology where you can, I don't want to be a spoiler, so I'm not going to tell you how it works, but it's pretty neat. So we're looking forward to the conversation today. Let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to start with a polling question, and we have a few of these. And so what best describes the current state of your organization's data analytics strategy? We really don't have one, no central organization of analytics tools or techniques. General guidelines established for individuals to develop analytics on their own. We have a formal, detailed strategy to follow, or an established center of excellence coordinating all of our data analytics and tools. So please take a minute to answer that poll. And as a reminder, you do need to answer these to get your CPE. Mike, you can't vote. I'm just reading that note here.
Yeah, I just tried and learned that.
Yeah, no surprise here. So, I mean, I think that analytics centers of excellence are for very mature organizations with lots of data. It does take some time and investment. But there's good news. I think we're going to talk about some practices and ways that you can, use your data, organize your data to make analytical decisions without having to spend a ton of money and having a robust, mature center of excellence. So I mean, we live in the most data-rich era in history, and I'm old enough to remember what a byte is. When the internet, and I was, early in my working career in the early '90s, remembering the first dial-up baud modems and bytes and kilobytes. And boy, have things changed. I mean, now we're talking in terms of a zettabyte. And over on the right-hand side, you can see a little bit about the terminology and how many gigabytes, which I'm familiar with because you take lots of pictures on your iPhone and you run out of gigs, right? Or you have to get extra storage. But now we're talking about zettabytes. So 402.74 billion gigabytes is essentially zero point 0.4 zettabytes. Well, this year, we're going to generate approximately 180 zettabytes of data. About half of that is video. So I think, some of you may spend time on Instagram or TikTok. I know my younger adult kids do. And I occasionally find some humor on Instagram, but there's just so much video and data out there, and it's growing astronomically. So for all of us in our organizations, we're producing more data every day. How do we harness that so that we can make better decisions about how we can operate and perform and serve our customers and donors and clients? There's actually over 2,700 data centers in the US. And if you read about a lot of the investments that are taking place in the tech space now are to build out new data centers to be able to fuel all the compute power that is needed for AI. And you're seeing some huge investments taking place by OpenAI and others. I see a thumbs down, interesting. But Oracle, as an example, is going to be cash flow negative for the next few years while they build out the infrastructure needed to create the data centers they're going to need to fuel the deal that they just hatched with OpenAI. So exciting times and lots to watch here in the data revolution. So this is kind of pretty obvious. Data impacts everything that you do, but it's really the key to unlocking insights to how you operate. How are you performing? How are you serving your customers, your donors? How are your processes and operations performing effectively? So in order for each of us to be running our organizations effectively, we need to be able to tap into that data to look at trends and that help us make better decisions for our operations and performance. So, all right, I want to be data driven. What do I need to do? What kind of challenges do I need to navigate through? Here's a few examples of things that you need to keep in mind as you're working to establish your own data strategy. You have a series of technology questions. What tools do we need? What do we have right now? Do we have any? Are we just using Excel? Do we have, a data warehouse or a data analytics platform? How do we deploy the tools that we do have? Or if we buy new tools, how do we deploy them? How long is it going to take me? What about security? Where does my data sit? You can't just go out and put a lot of your corporate data or your not-for-profit data into publicly owned AI tools or places without some level of security. Or you may end up on the front page of the New York Times or Wall Street Journal. That wouldn't be good. Or maybe there's just no clear path forward. Maybe you have a BI platform. I mean, a lot of people think if I go out and buy a platform, it's going to solve all your data analytics problems. There's a lot more to that. You got to figure out how to connect the data. What's the quality of the data that you have? So maybe you have a platform, but you don't really have a clear path to pulling in all the information that you have and how to present it or use it to make decisions. Or you can't access the data that you need, or maybe you don't even know what data you have in your organization. You might have a couple people that know all the answers, but what if that person walks out the door for a new job tomorrow? Or you got data distributed in lots of different places. There might be resistance to change. This might be the way things have always done. People don't want to try new analytical tools or practices. Some people don't like to share data. They think that, their place or stature in the organization is owning or holding data. And they don't trust sharing certain data with other people. Or it could be you could have funding or staffing challenges. You don't have much money to spend. You don't have internal resources that know how to do analytics. You don't have time to implement and support that, or you're not sure who's going to lead an analytics initiative. So these are all things that you'll need to navigate through as you go through your journey to become an organization that effectively uses data to make informed operational decisions. Some of you may have seen this before. It's an analytics maturity model and can kind of give you a sense of, where do you sit on the spectrum? Over on the right, you have, a graphic of the maturity model. You got the amount of data used. We don't have any analytics, so we're not using much data we're doing prescriptive analytics. In the role of analytics in your own decision making with various levels of maturity. And you have a description of some of those things. So descriptive analytics are, we've maybe got some dashboards that can provide us historical information with past events. We can diagnostic is being able to look at issues or challenges and see correlations to determine root causes. And then as you get more advanced, you might be able to do predictive modeling or prescriptive modeling that helps. And so there's a variety of different ways that organizations kind of find themselves on this spectrum. But many organizations are data rich and information poor. And so that's what we're really here to talk about. And here's another view of the maturity model with some use cases based on just core financials. So you see, what you saw in that graphic on the right was foundational through cognitive. And we've got a couple examples here. Foundational might be, all right, I have a financial system that can track financial information. If we're moving into predictive modeling, as an example, we might be able to use machine learning models to predict, donor revenue streams based on certain indicators, about the market or some of the initiatives that you're doing as an organization, and moving up into cognitive. So as you're thinking about your own analytics, think about different ways that you can, where do you sit on this maturity model? Similar to some of the challenges as you're starting to embark on your data journey, these are some domains that you want to put down on paper and think through versus a strategy and vision. Where are we today? What's our vision for data analytics? What are we not doing today that we want to be able to do in the future? What do we need? Why do we need it? What's a good starting point? What are some good use cases that would really provide good bang to the organization? Then how do we get there? What are the steps that we need to go through and the tasks we need to perform to fulfill that strategy and vision? And then how are we going to measure our success? Technology considerations on the right. You got to figure out what your architecture is going to be. Are you going to be on premise? Are you going to be in the cloud? What products and tools do you need? How complex is your data? Does it all live in one place? Do you have, just a handful of types of data, or are you dealing with millions of variables and data fields that you want to be able to look at and meld together? That'll impact the applications and tools that you use, the approaches that you take, whether you want everything to be centralized or distributed. You might hear the terms data warehouse, data lake house, data mart. It gets a little bit dizzying. Mike's going to talk about a little bit of those later today. And then access considerations. Can anybody see the data once we put it together on certain dashboards, or do we need to control who has access to it? Do we want all of our donors to see it? Do we want everybody in our organizations to see that? So those are some things that you need to think through. And then the governance and process considerations, how do we manage this once we get everything stood up over time? How long do we retain our data? How do we keep it clean and secure? who owns it, and each of the different processes. So these are just some key considerations to consider as you work on becoming a data-driven organization. And ultimately, you may get to a center of excellence. These are some domains similar to what we talked about on the last slide about the steps that you can go through to create an analytics center of excellence, starting with your strategy, assigning people to be able to do that, creating a governance process to keep your data clean, building out the tools and products using agile deployment, being able to measure the effectiveness of the analytics usage and how it's helping with your organizational performance and operations, and then having a community of users who can continually provide feedback on the use of analytics in the organization. And typically, you go through that strategy, you put together your data architecture, integrate the data there, figure out the infrastructure, and then roll it out with some enablement and training activities. So we have another polling question for you here. In my organization, leaders and team members can access dashboards and reports with real-time data needed to aid in making decisions. True, we have some dashboards and reports, but data is not real-time, and our reports can be run by different people with different results. We need to have a technical resource develop this information each time we need it, or we don't have the analytics we need to make decisions effectively. So take a minute to answer that polling question, and I look forward to seeing the results. That's great. We've got about a little more than a quarter that have the right sorts of dashboards and reports they need to make decisions. And the majority has some, but not completely. So that's positive. I think everyone's trending in the right direction. For those of you on the bottom end of the scale, that 14% we don't have the analytics we need to make decision. We'll talk a little bit about some ways to do that when Mike does his demonstrations. So I think you can, fairly quickly create a proof of concept to create analytics. We do a typical, workshop in a couple of days where you can run a proof of or come up with some ideas and use cases, and then build out a proof of concept in 3 to 5 weeks, typically for high priority dashboards at a relatively low cost point. So we talked about analytics. Now we're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. I think many of you have probably seen the crazy wave of ChatGPT and many others that are out there, and how it can be used both inside and outside organizations. I went on a trip recently to Yosemite to do some hiking with one of my kids, and had the whole trip planned by Claude, which is an Anthropic tool, and it was great. In a matter of minutes, it told me where to stay, what trails to take based on the interest level I had, and I'm not climbing up the face of a rock with ropes myself. I wanted relatively easy trails with some great sights. And it told me how far away things were from one another, where to eat, and it was just great. So in a matter of minutes, I was able to get great information for me. But AI is really that simulation of human intelligence by machines. I could have done all that, but it would have taken me a few hours to go research websites and spend time on Expedia and other products. And so it was great. I highly recommend it. And ChatGPT and most of those other tools like Claude are large language models, which is a type of AI program that can recognize and generate text, and even using video models now. But they're trained on absolutely huge sets of data. So I talked about the proliferation of data centers. They're needed because there's not enough compute power in the existing data centers to power a lot of the large AI models anymore. So there needs to build out more models. And you're seeing a lot of the companies like OpenAI and Anthropic are licensing huge amounts of data from news services and libraries and book publishers so that they can get access to information to fuel the LLMs that it can have. And so what can AI do? We talked about a little bit of that, but it can do some predictions for you based on looking at data. It's used in a lot of medical research now. Find anomalies in certain things, discover structures or generate text videos. And I think it's pretty obvious why you should care, but we'll talk a little bit more about some of the reasons coming up. So, I think of AI as it's not here to replace people. It's really here to support them. Some of you may be familiar with Copilot. It's a product, AI product that's embedded directly into many of your Microsoft tools. And I find it, pretty helpful to take notes when, we're on a call and getting information, or action items, which is great. It also can create some materials for me. Now, it's called Copilot for a reason because sometimes it makes things up. That any sort of AI tool, not just Copilot. It's not autopilot, and I think that there are definitely you can't just let it go without having some oversight on it. But it is a tremendous enabler and force multiplier for those who do embrace it to improve productivity first and foremost. And so, I think if you think about how you can apply AI to your own organizations, how could you use it to allow people to focus on impactful work? If we can fill out spreadsheets for you and do some number crunching that's really time consuming and save you time, what could you do with that extra time? To focus on more impactful work or maybe cut down on stress for some of the employees. So there's tremendous opportunities. A lot of organizations are seeing a variety of benefits through it, increasing efficiency and productivity through process optimization and automation of repetitive tasks. And we'll go through some examples of some of these things. Enhancing decision making by being able to go through vast amounts of data and information and providing some predictive analytics about what to do in the future, improving customer experience and competitive advantage, or cost savings through optimized resource allocations, labor cost reductions, and reduced errors. So, you may think you're kind of late to the game if you haven't started using AI, but actually a lot of organizations aren't that far along. A survey of some leading companies said 69% are beginning or very early in their AI journey as of 2025. So it's not too late to start. And 90% of organizations in a Harvard Business Review survey said that AI and data are top business priorities for 2025. So I think it's not too late to start. Tremendous benefits and opportunities. Let's look at a couple specific examples. Salesforce, some of you may use that CRM product, has been an early adopter, and they actually have used it to reduce a lot of the personnel costs in their customer service area by about 50 million this year. McKinsey, a large consultancy, has an AI agent called Lily that they've used to be able to scroll through several pieces of data that were created for other clients, and it gets over 500,000 inquiries monthly. That saves them over 5,000 hours per month just doing research and pulling reports back. Another report by MIT and Stanford share that accountants deploying Gen AI were able to upgrade detail of financial reports by 12%, shifting 8.5% of time from back office processing to higher value tasks, and actually cut close down by 7.5 days. That's pretty substantial. In the development space and technology, if you have developers, 90% of developers, according to a Google Dora report, don't work without AI anymore. So several potential benefits here. Let's look at how AI can help not-for-profits. A few categories here. Fundraising and donor engagement. And it's revolutionizing how nonprofits identify, engage, and retain donors. There's predictive analytic tools to help forecast donor behavior and giving patterns. There are AI-powered CRM tools like Salesforce and Donor Search AI to help personalize outreach and automate follow-ups. You have products that do grant writing for you to streamline proposal creation and improve success rates in your grant writing. I've used some of those, or at least seen demonstrations in the proposal space, and it's pretty impressive how quickly, you can generate 80% of a proposal or a grant. Marketing communications is another great field. AI can enhance campaign effectiveness and really, improve what your marketing and communication staff are able to do because they can work on more campaigns at the same time because AI can help support them. So there are a variety of different tools that can generate tailored content either for social media, newsletter, or donor outreach. You can also use chat bots and voice agents that provide real-time support and engagement on websites and hotlines. And a quick example from the trip I went on, I realized that there was only one person listed in the room on my Expedia room for one of the nights, and the person I was traveling with was getting in earlier, and their name wasn't on the reservation. So I went into Expedia and worked with the chatbot. Took me maybe 15 seconds and was able to add a second person in with that name, and then they were able to check into the room and when they arrived prior to me. So lots of applications for that in customer service. AI also enables nonprofits to deliver services more efficiently and measure outcomes. You see some AI agents that can help with scheduling or volunteer coordination and client intake. There are data analytics platforms to evaluate program effectiveness and identify areas for improvement, and real-time monitoring tools like WattTime that use satellite imagery to track environmental impact, applicable and climate-focused. And then finally, the last area is operations and resource management. It can help optimize internal workflows and resource allocations by automating administrative tasks like scheduling, document processing, taking notes, data entry. It can also enhance financial oversight and fraud detection. So just a few examples of some of the areas that not-for-profit organizations can consider using AI. So, just how do we connect data to this? Well, if you want to be effective at AI, it really starts with having good, high-quality data. And a lot of organizations struggle with this because they can't easily access their data, or the quality of it is not what's needed to be able to take advantage of AI. Any AI product is going to require large amounts of data to make connections and lead to, effective decisions. And only 20% of organizations today report data accuracy of 80% or higher. So data quality is something that a lot of organizations struggle with. And so essentially this means that many organizations are at risk of implementing AI strategies based on inaccurate data sets, and that'll give you poor results. So you want to get into AI in addition to data quality. Here's some other technical and organizational challenges you're going to need to navigate through. And the first is data quality, availability, and governance. So we talked about data quality twice because it's that important. And the availability of that data. So I think to overcome these challenges, you have to invest in data quality and management to ensure that you know where your data is coming from and if it's clean or not. And if it's not clean, what steps you can take to improve it. Then infrastructure and integration. So if you're, where do we want to be able to, what are the use cases we want to put in place to access our data? Where does this information exist? How do we build out our AI platform and program and integrate with key systems? A couple examples could be your CRM system or your ERP systems. When we're thinking about integrations, there are ways to connect with many AI products automatically. There's a protocol called MCP, which is Model Context Protocol, that allows you to facilitate a connection between AI applications and external systems, and it seamlessly integrates with various data sources, tools, and workflows to access data and perform tasks efficiently. So that's one way. So using modern AI-driven approach for AI is effective. You may not have the right people that know AI in your organization. That's not uncommon. You can see that Facebook's offering leading AI researchers $1 billion to come. So there's a huge war for AI talent right now. Having said that, I think there are some great training classes and there's tremendous opportunities to get your teams educated in AI. Think about mandatory AI training and development programs for all your stakeholders, just so that they can understand the opportunities from AI and how it can benefit the organization. And then there's strategic, ethical, and security challenges. There's strategic and cost considerations. So, if you want to develop and implement AI solutions, it can be very expensive. I think that's some of the early adopters are seeing extremely high bills from their cloud providers because of the cost of the compute power that is used for AI to make decisions. But there are small models that you can create, more cost-effective ways to do that. So I think as you're jumping in, you need to look at how you want to use AI and what sorts of investments you're willing to make to be able to jump in there and put together, a little business case that just can show you the return on investment that you can make. Then there are ethical and legal considerations like data privacy and bias, and you need to develop or think about guidelines for that. If you use AI, when you get results, you want to make sure that you know where the results are coming from, they're explainable, and that they're accountable. And then finally, security of corporate data, which is very important. You don't want to be in a situation where people are putting your organizational information into public, tools like ChatGPT. And so it's extremely important to have some controls around how you can use AI and protect your corporate information and data. There are private models that you can get, both large and small, many options there to be able to explore. If you're using internal tools like Copilot, there are many security levels that are built in. There's a tool called Purview, which is basically what it sounds like. It gives Copilot purview to access some information and not others. So you need to set that up when you're using Copilot. And we do have a team here on the team that Mike and I work on that focuses specifically on Microsoft Copilot and how to set it up and apply it and use it. So those are some of the challenges that you need to navigate through as you're thinking about how to apply AI. And so where do you start? I mean, one way to do that is just a self-assessment, an AI readiness assessment. And, it can be one day, it can be many days. I think the steps listed here are things that you should go through. So we've broken it down into 3 pieces where you do discovery, you evaluate what came out of your discovery, and then you iterate on what you found. So in the discovery phase, the goal is to develop a vision of how you want to be able to use AI to improve your operations. So what are the problems that AI could potentially solve in our organizations? And then where does the data live that could help us do that? So you're putting together an AI strategy, getting an understanding of where your data lives, the quality of that data, and high impact business problems that AI could solve. The next step would be to look at your requirements to be able to use AI. So do we use the cloud today? What sort of cloud products and tools exist out there? What are the costs for that? How could we access that data? What are the licensing models? And then once we start it, how are we going to govern the use of that AI as we have new data that's created? How's it going to get in the model? Are there other things that we want to be able to apply to it? And so I think coming out of that, you'll have a high-level overview of the data and system architecture and some use cases that you could use for AI, including requirements for AI and automation. And then the next step is to evaluate where you are against those requirements and develop a roadmap. So now, we know some things that we want to be able to do. We've got an understanding of our data, our architecture, an idea of tools. What are the steps we need to take to be able to apply this and actually create some proof of concepts for the AI use cases that we're interested. So coming out of that, you'll have a maturity assessment document and an AI readiness roadmap that give you a path forward. And the next step is really to look at prioritization of some of the things that were created in the evaluate phase and coming up with some ways to build out that initial proof of concept, or at least design that. You may not get the full proof of concept built out in a day here, but you'll have a solution design so that when you're ready, you can get started there. So, polling question, and curious about this one. Are you using AI in your organization today? No, we are starting to explore it. We are piloting it, or we are actively using AI. Right, I suspect we'll see results here shortly. No, 14% said no, 56 starting to explore it. Some pilots and 16% actively using. That's great to see. I think that aligns with some of the stats shared early on about organizations starting on their journey. So I am going to turn it over to Mike, who's going to talk about how we approach analytics. Mike.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly. We're going to talk a little bit about our approach, look at a reference architecture, and then get into a demo. But the typical project these days looks a bit different than traditional business intelligence projects. We're seeing a trend where, not as many companies want us to analyze and do a big upfront requirements gathering session as has been in the past. They want to get to insights quicker and as soon as possible. So typically what we'll do is an iterative approach, and we'll start small with a couple of data sources. We'll identify them. What are the key metrics and KPIs you want to get out of that? And then we'll move immediately into the implementation phase, where we'll stand up an environment similar to the one you're about to see. We'll develop those pipelines to continually refresh the data from the initial sources. We'll develop a model that can be delivered via dashboards, alerting, etc. And then we iterate, and the iteration can include additional data sources. And eventually, as you continue to iterate on this process, you'll move further along that maturity curve that George referenced and get into those more advanced use cases like machine learning and AI. Go ahead and jump to the next slide, please. So this is what a modern data platform looks like. Now, in this particular example, it's in Microsoft Azure, and I don't want to get too hung up on that. Where we're going to focus today is in the center of the screen. It's called Databricks Lakehouse, and that runs on any cloud, Azure, Amazon Web Services, or Google's cloud. And also, similarly with the Analyze piece, we have Tableau and Power BI. This will work with any data visualization tool of your choice. So go ahead and jump to the next slide. And these are just some common source systems that we've encountered, and spanning a variety of subject areas, including HR, ERP and finance, operations, and sales. But the point of this slide is, if you don't see your system on here, we've encountered a lot of them, and regardless of where your data lives today, we're confident we can get it out of there. So the barriers to entry are much lower now from a technical perspective and a cost perspective to start taking data from your sources wherever it lives and begin leveraging a modern platform to gain insights from your data faster than ever before. So with that, I'm going to jump into a demo. So what you're seeing here, that architecture slide that we just looked at. So this is the workspace for the Lakehouse architecture that we just discussed. And what I've done here, you might be a business user, you might be asking, all right, why is he showing me a technical platform like this? And what I'm about to show you, I hope answers that question. So what I've done here is I've just onboarded some sample data around fundraising campaigns and donations. And I'm going to show you how you can start leveraging AI with that raw data immediately, right? So what I'm going to do here is jump into what's called a Genie space, and I'm going to start interacting with that data set using natural language. So let's just start with a simple question here. Display the total donations by campaign. What this platform is doing is it's taking my natural language and it's using AI to generate a database query, execute that database query, and then return the results. So as you can see, it's given me a breakdown of my campaigns and the total donation amount just by asking it a simple question. And I want to be clear, I haven't done really any curation of this data or any engineering around it. It's been purely just onboarding raw data, and that could be coming from Excel, flat files, wherever. You can bring it in and start using AI to gain insights from it. So let's just keep going with this. I'm going to ask it another question. Which donors contributed the most to Education for All from 2023 to 2024? And it's going to come back and it's going to give me a long list of donors, because I've got a lot of donors, and it's going to give me a visualization around that. And I can, this visualization isn't very readable because I have so many donors. So I can kind of distill it down a little bit and ask it, just display the top 10 donors in a bar chart, right? And so what's interesting about this is it's contextual. It has the context of my previous question. It's able to iterate over that same data set and give me the top 10 donors and throw it into a bar chart for me, which it just was up there for a second. Not sure what happened, and then it sorts it from donation, the highest donation descending, just because I asked it for the top. And then it also understands the language around bar chart and line chart. I can just say, show this in a line chart. Again, not having to rephrase my question. And it's just going to take that same data set and just change the visualization. So pretty powerful stuff. We'll show a couple more examples of this, and then we will move into some dashboarding capabilities and some of the other capabilities with this platform. So I can ask a completely unrelated question: which campaigns are on pace to exceed their goal? It's going to then do the same thing using AI to convert the natural language into a database query, and it's going to return the result sets. So I've gotten my goal amounts, my total donated, and then it's going to give me some other information, break it down by campaign. All right, now let's do a quick KPI use case where I'm going to ask it for year to date, compute the per campaign metrics for total donations, average gift, number of gifts, and percent to goal. Again, it's thinking for a few seconds here, but it's going to iterate over that data set and it's going to return the result set. All right, so what if I want to take that a step further and display the min and max donation amount for each campaign? I can then just have the context of that previous question, and it's going to return by campaign the min and max donation. So as you can see here, the speed to getting a return on your investment from modernizing your platform is much more accelerated when you use modern technology. And I also want to add that this particular platform that we're looking at here, they have a free version for education and some nonprofits that they just announced in June. So the barriers to entry to getting into this are extremely low. You don't have to be a multi-billion-dollar enterprise in order to start taking advantage of this. You could stand this up in a matter of hours. An end user can come in here and just start adding data sets, Excel files, disparate data. And then when you get more mature about it, you can set up pipelines and schedule them right through here. It's kind of an end-to-end one-stop shop for all your analytics needs. And finally, I just want to touch on some of the more advanced features in this. You have some of the leading publicly available large language models and predictive models in the industry available for use with your data securely in an environment that you govern. So we've got GPT out here, we've got Meta Llama, and they recently announced that Claude Sonnet 4.5 is going private preview shortly. So it's accelerating, and the innovation is happening at a rapid pace. And you also have a marketplace of publicly available data sets here. And so I'm just going to break it down and just go into the public sector category. You've got a series of publicly available data sets that you can use. Some are pay, some are available. and D&B, et cetera, where you can start augmenting your analytics journey with some of these publicly available data sets. So that's just kind of scratching the surface. Feel free to reach out with questions. I'd love to go deeper with you. I'm sure you're going to have some questions about this, but the point here is that modernizing your tech stack and using a modern data platform can allow business users to start interacting with their data, and the days of having to wait for some long business intelligence project to go through before you start gaining insights are all but gone at this point. So with that, I know we're coming up on time, so I could keep rambling about this, but I believe we have one final poll, so I want to kick it back to the moderators to get that in time.
Thanks, Mike. I did see a question. What tool was Mike demoing? That was Databricks. Great.
Yes.
Platform. Yep, great product. And as you can see, many of the AI tools and leading products are integrated directly into that tool. Can you suggest AI training that is effective for an organization just starting? There are so many out there. Reach out. Happy to spend a few minutes just sharing some of the ones, but it's hard to say what's the best because there's so many certification classes. I'm trying to determine that myself. But there are it depends upon what you want to achieve. How about keeping financial data secure and not released to the public? Absolutely. I mean, any model you build is going to be, you can set up the security parameters for whether it be financial or HR information to keep it secure. We can definitely chat about that. Final poll here. If you want to talk more, go ahead and reach out. And, you want us to reach out afterwards, we can have someone follow up and schedule a call. Yes, no, or maybe in the future. Thanks very much. Really appreciate everybody's time today. And we appreciated you being with us. And we're right on time. John, back to you.
George and Mike, a lot of information in 50 minutes. So thank you so much for this session today. So we're going to be moving on to our next session literally in 10 minutes. So any of you that have not registered yet, look on the chat for the registration. And the next session is going to be audit ready teams aligning with the latest auditing standards for a seamless audit. So please take a look over there. And before you leave, please spend a few minutes filling out the survey. We really appreciate your feedback. It's going to pop up right when you close out of the session. And again, thanks for joining us on the first session today, and hope you can join us for the next one in 10 minutes. And again, thanks so much for George and Mike for their presentation today. Great job, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.